Welcome to the School of Computing at University Utara Malaysia. I am Dr. Jabbar El-Maliki. Today, we are analyzing ethical theories in cybersecurity. The digital era presents us with a specific paradox. Computer science provides us with immense power to secure systems, monitor traffic, and intercept threats. What it does not provide is the logic to determine if we should use that power. Imagine you discover an imminent, devastating attack targeting a vulnerable server. Is it acceptable to bypass protocols and access that system without permission to neutralize the threat? Looking at the data flow, we see pure mechanical execution. Algorithms process inputs and return outputs. They cannot compute moral justifications or complex trade-offs. Because code is entirely blind to morality, the ultimate responsibility for balancing collective security against individual privacy falls entirely on the cybersecurity professional. When confronting these dilemmas, decisions cannot be driven by instinct. They require rigorous, structured analysis. We achieve this through ethical theories. These are formalized logic frameworks. We use them to evaluate and justify whether a specific decision is morally right or wrong. For our analysis, we will rely on a matrix built from 5 core ethical theories. Think of these as distinct computational filters. Passing a single cybersecurity dilemma through each filter generates wildly different outputs and conclusions. Mastering this 5-part matrix gives you a systematic way to resolve professional conflicts, especially in environments where legal guidelines offer no clear answers. Our first framework is ethical fundamentalism. This system operates under the belief that there is a single, unquestionable source of truth, typically a strict law. This framework acts like a binary logic gate. You do not evaluate context or weigh outcomes. You simply follow the established rule exactly as written. In a computing environment, this is the employee adhering to every security policy without deviation. Consider a company refusing to test a competitor's open system because it violates internal compliance laws. They refuse, even if testing could expose a critical mutual vulnerability. This approach provides absolute consistency and removes all ambiguity from decision-making. However, its strict rigidity fails the moment the underlying rules themselves are flawed, outdated, or incomplete. We move to utilitarianism. Unlike fundamentalism, this is a consequence-based theory. The optimization goal here is straightforward. The morally correct action produces the greatest overall benefit for the largest number of people. This theory often drives national policy. This image shows the National Security Agency headquarters, representing the immense scale of government surveillance programs. The utilitarian calculation works like this. Monitoring the network traffic of millions of users certainly violates individual privacy. That is a negative. But if it prevents a cyber terror attack, the massive societal benefit easily outweighs the privacy cost. The obvious flaw in this math is the data itself. Abstract concepts like societal benefit and privacy harm are incredibly difficult to measure and compare objectively. Utilitarianism proves highly practical for managing macro-level network security. Because it prioritizes the collective, its logic can be weaponized to justify severe human rights violations. This brings us to Kantian ethics, our next framework, a strict, duty-based theory that serves as the direct opposite of utilitarianism. The guiding principle here is that actions must follow universal moral rules. Crucially, human beings must never be treated merely as tools to achieve a desired outcome. To see what happens when this protocol is ignored, examine the Facebook Cambridge Analytica data breach. In this event, the network data of millions of users was systematically scraped. That data was then weaponized to build political targeting profiles without consent. Through a Kantian lens, the political outcome achieved is irrelevant. The action was unethical because it stripped users of autonomy and treated them purely as data points to be exploited. Kantian ethics provides a powerful firewall for human dignity. But its absolute refusal to consider positive outcomes can paralyze professionals during crises, demanding flexible trade-offs. This is philosopher John Rawls. His theory moves away from strict duties and broad calculations, focusing purely on systemic fairness and equality in decision-making. Rawls introduced the veil of ignorance. It demands architects design system rules without knowing their own rank or vulnerability. When system designers don't know if they will be the administrator or lowest-level user, they naturally design frameworks that protect everyone equally. Looking at the Kuala Lumpur skyline, we see the economic context for Malaysia's Personal Data Protection Act, or PDPA, a real-world embodiment of this exact philosophy. The PDPA enforces a standard of fairness. It ensures that massive corporations and ordinary citizens are held to the exact same rigorous data protection standards. Rawls theory is an excellent tool for drafting long-term policies. However, it requires a level of deliberation that is difficult during fast-paced cyber defense operations. Our final theory is ethical relativism. This framework argues that moral standards are not universally fixed, but depend heavily on cultural, social, and legal contexts. Because of shifting cultural baselines, definitions of privacy and surveillance change drastically when data crosses borders. Take internet censorship. Routing architectures enforcing strict monitoring might be accepted in one country, while categorized as a severe violation in another. Cybersecurity professionals operating on a global scale cannot rely on a single cultural assumption. They must adapt their systems to align with localized variables. Relativism forces us to respect global diversity and local laws. But by denying a universal standard for right and wrong, it can accidentally provide cover for deeply unethical data practices. To see why a multi-framework approach is required, we can apply our complete matrix to a single stress test, ethical hacking, specifically penetration testing performed without explicit authorization. When we feed this single action into our analytical pipeline, the frameworks immediately collide. Fundamentalism rejects the action entirely. Penetrating a system without permission breaks anti-hacking laws. End of discussion. Utilitarianism, however, readily accepts the action. Finding and patching a critical vulnerability before malicious actors can exploit it provides a massive benefit to the entire user base. But layer on Kantian Ethan Albany action is condemned once again. Accessing an owner's system without their explicit consent treats their property as a tool, violating their autonomy. This proves the core challenge. A single cyber action can be illegal under one framework, highly beneficial under another, and morally forbidden under a third. No single framework can provide a definitive answer. Technical computing solutions, no matter how advanced, are insufficient when dealing with these ethical dilemmas. Because the automated digital frameworks inherently conflict with each other, the ultimate accountability for these actions rests entirely on human judgment. Effective professional decision-making requires you to manually synthesize these approaches. You must understand the legal context, calculate the societal consequences, and maintain dedication to human dignity. So as you move forward in your careers, consider this. When strict legal compliance comes into direct conflict with your ethical responsibility, which framework will you default to? While technical precision is a baseline requirement, true professional excellence is defined by the moral clarity to deploy that technology justly.